Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. This is the second re-record because the audio in the first one was terrible, so I apologize for that. If you haven't seen it, don't worry about it. Anyway, I was playing Improvers Sunday on the 20th of December. Now, normally I live stream events. This time it was, over the Christmas period, spending time with my family, playing a bunch of chess. Didn't feel like live streaming, but I logged on to play Improver Sunday. It was only the third/fourth time I played it. We'll get to what happened in the fourth event in just a moment. But I logged on and I finished second. It was an incredible performance. I went 5-0, and here are the games to show you how I did. So this was game one. At the start of the tournament, I was rated 2070 rating points. My first opponent, rated 1458. I played e4, and I played something a little bit different that I haven't played a lot of, and that is c3, the Alpine Sicilian, looking to add it into my repertoire. Knight to c6, d4, c takes, now d5. Now, most engines will tell you the best move here is to take. I wasn't sure because I wasn't... Oh, sorry, it jumped right back to the beginning. I ran it through game review. There it is. Now, most engines will tell you to take this. I wasn't sure about that because it's like, well, you take, queen takes, knight takes, you kind of hang this, so then you've got to play knight to c3, but then they pin you. So I was like, I'll just push the pawn. It can't be a bad move. Apparently it is. Anyway, bishop to f5, knight to c3, e6, and bishop to d3. At this point, I'm going to say the accuracy and the quality of play does get better. But this first game was a real warm-up because I just hung a pawn. Knight takes d4. Now, I'm not terrible because I've got queen a4 check, forcing the knight to go back. And here I thought I'll just add pressure by playing bishop to b5. Engine thinks I'm dead lost. Queen b6, though. Now, bishop to e3 forces queen c7. Well, not forces, there's other moves. The preferred move of the engine is actually bishop to c5. And honestly, if I got hit with that, I don't know what I would have done. Probably bishop takes c5, queen takes c5, and knight f3 maybe? Knight f3. Which is fine. Bishop takes c6 is maybe a bit better. Anyway, queen c7 going back. Now knight to f3 and knight to d7. Both not they're fine. They're inaccuracies, but they're fine. I'm just putting as much pressure as I can on this. Bishop to g6 gets out the way, so I can't take that. And now f4. Huge blunder because of a6, allegedly. I wasn't worried about a6 because I thought, well, takes. So while he's not castled and the rook's not defended, he can't take my bishop. So I took early. He played, of course, a takes b5, which is a huge blunder. If he took back here, like this, I don't know what I would have done, actually. I can't remember what the plan was. I think it was to go back to e2. Because you very much can take me like this, but then I could also get various bishop to c5s and look to trade off like this. So it's a double-edged position, but he would have played knight f5. I would have had to play bishop f2, and this just isn't a pleasant position. He's going to march me down the center of the board. But that's not how the game unfolded. Instead, he played a takes b5. He took with the wrong pawn, hung a rook, and hung the second rook. So I'm just completely winning. Now it's about safeguarding my king. And then here he played bishop e4 and resigned, simply because I'm going to take the bishop, and when I take back, I'm going to go here. And it's mate in 8. It's m7, m8. So an incredible performance in the first game where I kind of got handed the game a little bit. So, we are hoping for better play as I now move on to game 2. I'm just closing the tab. We got paired against 1648 in this game, and it was an interesting game. I had the black pieces, so let's look at it from my perspective. It was a London-esque position. I really enjoy these systems with bishop on e7, bishop on b7, and c5, and then delaying the move d5. I really like these systems. You get them in, various nymphs are Indian, sometimes with the bishop there, the queen's Indian. I really like these systems. It is considered the Indian game ... London system, so it is. White's playing London. Here they played a4, I played knight f3, and I'm just happy. I'm just very happy with the position. You know, there's not much really to say about it. We get here, it's a London. It's so solid. As now game review sends me right back to the beginning again. So, you know, we get through all of this, and I can't really complain. A4, knight to c6. Here, queen comes out. Now, you can play rook c1, but I thought, why don't I just attack the queen? Queen goes back, and now d5. Best move. Bishop to e2, c takes d4, e takes d4, rook to c8. I just like these systems because it feels like it plays itself. Got short castles, I jump the knight into the center, bishop to d3, f5. Knight e5, and here, slight inaccuracy, it had a better move, but trading off the knights and playing bishop to b7, it's not dreadful. White is better, but practically speaking, it's not easy because, you know, you struggle with pawn mobility on the queen side, and I could launch a kingside attack. You know, g5 is coming. You know, so rook fe1 and g5. And bishop h2 and g4. And knight e5, and here I have to be correct. I have to play the right move. I have to play bishop to h4, apparently. I don't get bishop to h4 because I suppose this, you've achieved something because you can play like bishop f6, and now this bishop is dead for the remainder of the game. But this is just defended, so like I don't get it. Like I get the rook can't come back, but what if you just played like, you know, rook f1, and then g takes h3, g takes h3, and now maybe queen e1 or queen e8 to try and get out this way. Nope. Why? Queen e2. Okay, anyway, I rushed with queen e8, h takes g4, and we hang a pawn, kind of. My queen gets out and active. Here I missed the tactic. I covered it in the first video. I forgot that when they take, the knight's not defended, so I don't have to drop the knight back to g5. Simple things you can do. Knight to e5, king h8, queen f2, rook g8, and basically I went for activity. I was like, I'm just going to try and open everybody up as best as I can and just have all my pieces in the attack. This rook is a stoner over here. This bishop's got scope. The knight's well placed, so we got to fight as best we can and hope that we have enough. g4, queen to h6, queen g2, and now play knight to h3. Rook f1, and knight f4. Which is a good move because it forks these two pieces. So I'm going to get one of them. And I get the queen. Yeah. Opponent just missed, the queen was hanging. Took back. And then I got a check in and won the bishop. And yeah, 1648, they go down as well. We're 2-0. And the ratings just keep getting higher. The next game was against an 1800. 18 and 30. We've gained 4 rating points since the start of the tournament so far. We're now up to 2074. As I can put this back on screen. So I do this just because it jumps to the end of the game. You know, our accuracy was the highest it's been so far. Oh, I'm playing with the white pieces. I'm not playing Aljorken's defense. You know, this was all theory stuff. All really good. b3, short castles. Here e5 was played. We can take, knight takes e5, which is a mistake because I've got rook to c1. And what I do is I get out the scope of this bishop, which is annoying, but it's got no targets, and now this is a weakness. You've created a weakness, so rook e8, and here I just go to target it, knight b5. Knight takes f3, bishop takes f3, queen takes f3, and now you've got two weaknesses, because I'm going to play like rook fd1 in a moment. So a6, and here I spotted what I thought was a brilliant tactic. It doesn't quite work how you intend, because I played knight takes d6. Apparently the best move was to just play c5, going for the knight straight up. But queen takes d6 and now c5, which wins the knight back. And what it does is it also freezes this pawn on b7, so it's permanently a problem. And I can anchor in my rook on c7, which is really, really cool. So rook e7, I just go for that idea. Rook c7, rook takes, rook here, takes, bishop here, and rook to c1. queen d7, and now here I can give up the pawn. I can take here and allow them to take, and here I calculated 2 moves. Bishop f4 and queen c4. I also calculated, not that, but queen c2. Queen b7, not queen c2. What am I saying? Although queen a7 is fine according to the engine. So, here bishop f4 is just a brilliant move. You just get the double exclam, all good. Because that's a problem. Queen takes, rook takes, whatever, you're going to win. Queen a7, same idea. Too many pins, but you probably still have to play something like bishop to f4. So here h5, and now apparently wants a pawn move, but you probably can play bishop f4. No, you can't, because takes, the rook hangs with mate, so you don't have time to take the queen. So not bishop f4 on this occasion, maybe something like g6 first. Anyway, beside the point. Here I played queen to c4 and blundered my queen because of bishop takes h2 check, king takes h2, and rook takes, rook takes. Now, practically speaking, I had to take a minute here because I was so furious that I'd hung my queen in what was clearly a winning position when I had bishop f4. And I knew I had bishop f4. I realized straight away I should have played it. But I still thought, practically speaking, I've got bishop and rook for queen, and I've got these 2 pass pawns. And a relatively safe king. As long as I don't blunder perpetual, this is a draw at worst and a win at best. I don't think I can lose this position. So queen d6, g3. Queen a3. There are ways to hang on to the pawns, but I just give a check, I give another check, and I drop the rook back, and eventually I managed to find this configuration, where I get this. b4, anchoring the bishop. The bishop is useful because it's always defending that, so keeping it on this diagonal is crucial. This now can go along the way, and there will be a point where, if I can just get everybody coordinated nicely, the pawn will promote. h5 is a concern, looking to shred apart the defenses of my king and perhaps deliver perpetual check, but I can just play b5. Queen b3, b6. I thought about here just playing rook b1, but I was like, I can just push the pawn. Nothing is in danger. King comes closer now to c6, but now I get rook b4, and I'm just going to push and promote. Here, the engine gives the only move is queen to c2. No, sorry. It wants queen a2, queen a3, queen c3 to like grab the bishop. But they take my rook. They do win the pawn, and maybe they thought they could hold this, but you can't. And so I just mop up all of the pawns, and I win with g4, and I win, and I move to 3 and 0, and it was, you know, it was getting harder. My next win, I think, is my biggest ever in terms of rating. I think it was my biggest ever win, my best ever win in terms of my rated opponent. 96% accuracy. Now, this is a short game. So, e4, I played. I was really happy to get the white pieces again. c6. And what happens early on is we get a Caracan. So, I was like, okay, what is this guy going to play? Is he going to play this annoying line that I've publicly stated I hate, which is c5? Is he going to play bishop to f5 and then we can play a tal? No. He plays e6. And what we do is we get a transposition to a French defense. So I played like my French. I played knight e2, c takes d4, c takes d4, knight g7, and then I put the knight on f3. Both of them defend the center, and there's discoveries, and you'll see in a moment, bishop e7 short castles. I play this important move after looking to trade the knights off and trading them off, bishop to e3. And I think this bishop is the golden piece of my position, because it is permanently defending d4 and it's permanently defending f2, because what his plan was to double the rooks. You'll notice when I took the knight there, he took like this. So he could open the F file and take like that. What that does is damage the integrity of this pawn. So I can play queen d2 in case I ever want to put anything on g4. But the other idea is to connect the rooks. He drops back from the queen side with queen d8. And now the crescendo, the only winning move, rook e b1. The only piece you have playing on this side of the board is the knight, and I'm about to dislodge it, and you've got nothing on the f-file. You've got nothing. You can't get this bishop out anywhere. This central, this is really strong, the central blockade on e5 and d4. Because you can't put anything on f6, you can't put anything on d6. The dark squared bishop has got like no way out. And now I'm just got a free hand to play on the queen side, to open up my rooks. And you'll see in just a moment, b5, I can play a4, bishop takes, sacrifice the rook for 2 pieces. And the thing is, the French bishop, normally it's quite a bad piece, sometimes it's useful in defending this. But you'll see in a moment, because of the coordination, I can play after bishop takes a4, b takes a4, not bishop takes. I could take this. I didn't like it because I thought there might be, rook takes f3 ideas, which there are in certain Frenches. I was looking at this game with one of the chess.com coaches, Victor Korchnoi, and one of the moves was this bishop takes, rook takes f3. And it's also popular in very Sicilian lines with rook takes c3. So I didn't like it, so I was like, okay, I can just play knight to g5. What it does is it puts pressure on this, the serious weakness in black's position, and it removes the rook from f2. So this diagonal gets weaker towards the king. That's the problem when you play f takes. Now he did play rook f5, which does mean I have to consistently calculate this sacrifice. And here, if I just played a waiting move, bishop takes a6, because the knight's no longer there, I lose. Because he sacrifices the rook for the 2 pieces, and in this position he's much better. Or it's at least a draw. Because I could win this, but then there's, threats down here, there's threats on the king, the rook's here. He's got enough, and he's up a point of material as well. I mean, not for long, because I'd probably win this, but that's beside the point. So rook f5. But there is something I can do. I don't have to play a slow move like bishop takes a6. The rook sees these. I'll win them eventually. I can play queen d6. And now, the queen is tied to the defense of this bishop. So you cannot sacrifice the rook for the knight, because at the end of it, I would grab the bishop. So here he plays a good move. He plays rook e8, which doesn't defend the bishop. So he still can't sacrifice. But what it does is he's trying to defend this. But unfortunately, there's bishop to g4. The rook has to go back. It can't go to f6. It would love to go to f6 and put defense on this. It can't. Here for a second I thought I blundered when I played bishop takes e6. I think it was like 3 seconds. Because takes, and I was like, oh, that's a problem. I can't take back with the knight because then they take and my knight's hanging. But I can take the queen first, the intermezzo. And then when rook takes, now the rooks are apart, I can take the bishop. He resigns because it's a fork, and I will simply be up a bishop. He'll have 2 weak pawns that my rook will eat. I'll safeguard my king and win the game. So 23-14 dispatched in 28 moves, and that made me 4-0. But ladies and gentlemen, that was not the end of the story. That was not the final game. They made it 5 rounds because there were so many people invested in Improvers Sunday, which is the tournament that I was playing, in case you hadn't caught on just yet. 10+2 time control, and this was the final game. I had the black pieces once again. This game I think took me to 2091. e4, e6, d4, d5, French defense. I love the French. We get a normal advanced French. We play a bunch of theory. Here he plays bishop e3, which I know is not a great... I get why people play it, because they want to take here. I don't understand why people always want to take this. It's not good, because you leave this isolated, and you double these pawns. I get it. But now I just play knight f5. And bishop to d3, I just take. And this structure looks like I've given white the advantage of an open F file. I haven't, because I'm going to crack at this center all the time. So bishop e7, short castles, queen e1, and I know what white's plan is. They're coming to checkmate me. They're queen, rook, knight, bishop, everything. The pawn on e5 limiting mobility, only a little bit, because I can play queen b6, which sets up threats on this diagonal. We get queen f2, which is slow. I think it's very slow, because it closes this diagonal kind of, but, you know, f6 now. Pawn takes, and here the best move according to the engine is rook takes f6. Which didn't make sense to me, but what it does is it stops knight g5. That's what it does. So rook takes f6 is fine. Even if I want to consider it, g takes f6, it's not as good, but it does stop this kind of. But rook takes f6 would have been better. I played bishop takes f6. I thought it was natural. I thought it supports e5, which will liberate this light squared bishop. But the problem is it doesn't stop knight g5. So we first get knight a3, a6, which is a terrible move, and now knight g5. He figures it out. Because I can't take, because of mate. My rooks aren't connected because of the bishop that I haven't moved yet. So I play h6, inaccuracy, and now he can play knight h7. And I've got a problem, because he just hits both. Now, I was thinking of trying to play rook f2. It doesn't work. So I decided to go full Gotham chess, sacrifice the rook, bishop d7, knight takes, inaccuracy, rook takes f6. Now, worst case scenario, we're back where we were. This is still a problem, so I can't move this bishop. So at some point he may try to dislodge it, but I've played h6. There's nothing really here. I can bring the queen back to d8. I can play e5. I thought, practically speaking, I was okay. Here he played queen c2, and the best move is to play c takes d4 first, but I played e5. And here bishop f5, which is just a genuine mistake, because bishop takes f5, rook takes f5, I think is more practical speaking, because queen takes f5, they're obviously worried about this. Queen takes b2, which hits rook, which hits knight, and, you know, these pawns all die. So rook takes f5 is to prevent that, but now I can play c takes d4, pawn takes d4, and e takes d4 again. And you can't take this, because I fork here, I hit both, and I threaten discoveries. So I might have just been genuinely threatening, you know, like a, not quite a smothered mate. The knight doesn't arrive on f7. But, you know, some nasty discoveries, picking up something with check. So to avoid that, after e takes d4, we get king h1. But I'm just winning because I take again. You've got no choice but to play b takes c3. That's a weakness. I can just go here. I defend this from the rook, and I attack that, and I see the knight. The only move here is apparently queen b2, which puts pressure back on this. And I probably still would have taken here. But now you can play queen takes c3, bishop takes c3. The knight's not hit, so you can play rook a f1. Or you can trade rooks first, I suppose, and then you can like come in with check here. And now this should be level-ish. King g8's a mistake. I should have played like king e7, but regardless. Anyway, queen c5. Instead, queen b3 is played. Now, there's a slight difference, and that is that when I take here, the rook is undefended, and the knight is under attack. You still have to go into this line, and you can escape with a draw. But here, my opponent played queen takes d5 check. Took the pawn, I played king h1, and now you cannot defend both. So we get rook af1, but I can just take on a3. Just up a knight. Actually, I'm up 2 minor pieces, sorry. Now I've got 2 minor pieces for the rook. That's the exchange balance. They play h3. They're going to just launch it. But I can play rook d8 first, queen here, offer a queen trade. They deny it. Here I play rook f8 again. I know, bit of a waste of time, but just defending this bishop, so there's no sacrifices, that they might be looking at. Rook slides over to h5. I decided to play queen e3 to defend this, because I was like, they're going for it, and if they find Perpetua, I'm going to be so mad, because this is completely winning, and we end the game in style. Rook h5, rook hf5, and now knight e7. Just a fork, picking up the rook, queen would slide over, and I won, and I went to 5-0, and I finished second with a silver medal. We can go onto my profile, Trusty Matt on chess.com. We can go to awards, and here it is, silver medal. You can see I had one already, but from Judith, this username, congratulations, you have won second place in the Improvers Sunday Early 1200 plus tournament with an over record of 5-0-0. There it is. Trusty Matt, second place. This person, she's fantastic. He or she is fantastic. They won both the early and late editions. You can see I placed second. Now, the one dampener is I did end up playing the late edition as well, so I played both editions same day. I finished with 3 out of 5 and 15th place, but that's not a lot to sneeze at. So it was a great tournament. It was a great experience. 5-0, finished second, and it was really, really good.